Thank you very much. I think certainly this is very flattering introduction. I would like to thank you for inviting me again to speak in this conference. It's always great to see old faces, new faces coming in, how the whole program develops. And it's really a pleasure. It's a fantastic opportunity just to be here. Having both academic and clinical background, I've been involved in biomarker research and the development discovery for almost 30 years, but also on the same form, just as a practicing in diagnostics, clinical diagnostics in the NHS. I also see the other side of all these discoveries that they mentioned as a user. So I very much. So when we were discussing with Vicky and the team about the need for the development of the landscape report, I offered together with my colleagues, especially Neil Anderson, who back then he was the clinical director of our pathology services within Coventry, Warwickshire, to put this landscape together, presenting in a way the real world state of UK diagnostics and what they're looking forward, what they want, how they want to develop. So some extracts I will present in the next 20-25 minutes, so you can get an overview of what some of the key elements that were discussed. And the way that we approach it is that we split our thinking in our research was based on 4 themes around the current national landscape, giving an overview of the key players in the infrastructure and the regulatory environment. A lot of this was presented last year, so I'm not going to spend any more time talking about this. In particular, we spent quite a lot of effort discussing about the trends in development and what are some of the key drivers, especially things around digital health, AI, and personalized medicine. And one of the most important that's been discussed extensively through our searches, through our interactions, is the challenges. The challenges for the workforce, also challenges for the engagement that I think that it's highlighted in our report. And finally, also as always, to have a positive note is about opportunities. What can UK diagnostics offer in terms of opportunities for collaboration, for translation of innovation, of adoption of innovation, and also the digital transformation, as well as the workforce. Because we have to remember is that all these great innovations, they're going to be delivered by the workforce that needs to have specific skills in order to deliver this. So in a nutshell, if you want to just put everything together, is that why do we care? Why do we care about the diagnostics within the healthcare? Everybody recognizes that it's a critical component. It is mentioned that 80% of all clinical activities involve some kind of diagnostics. It's considered the cornerstone of the patient engagement with the healthcare system, all the way from screening, from diagnosis, from disease diagnosis, from monitoring, from therapy selection, and so on. Without a doubt, there is increased demand for diagnostic services. Okay, and at the same time, this is met also by chronic underfunding and underinvestment in this sector. So there's always something that is being highlighted again and again, that the diagnostic sector, the NHS diagnostic sector is always asked to do more for less. Okay, so of course things are changing now. Moving forward and moving ahead, the NHS now has identified new priorities for disease prevention, for early detection of disease and diagnosis, and this will be delivered to a certain extent by the diagnostic services. So therefore, that puts diagnostics at the center of the thinking and a very high priority by the government. The key trends, challenges, and opportunities: digital diagnostics, AI, personalized medicine, all being identified and mentioned in our findings, as well as how we can foster innovation, how we can bring innovation into and accelerate the translation of innovation into routine care, especially for the long-term conditions, the chronic conditions, and make it also more accessible, to, especially of the highest quality, to make sure that all the population in the UK that are covered by the NHS have access to that. And this is very important because the NHS have made very specific commitments with the UK need about the 20+5 commitment to cover, to offer, to improve care for a number of underrepresented groups, especially what is called the 20%. Some of the key findings. Consensus agreement, the diagnostic sector has been chronically underfunded. Yeah, I think we all agree on that. There's emphasis on cost savings, not on delivery of fit for purpose service. This is very important because that sets the scene of the state of mind, of the mindset of the diagnostic sector within the NHS. There is, at the same time, the expectation is that through service configuration, there will be enablers. They will uncover enablers to help drive forward, especially drive and bring innovation into this. There is a staff shortage. There's staff shortage, and currently, the current staff we're employed, they're underskilled to deliver the technological advances. This is a very important, as you said, just because the people, all the innovations, no matter what, they will have to be delivered, but skillful workers with the right skills to deliver those innovations. Okay. There needs to be, generally there's an agreement that the current system is too fragmented, and there needs to be better integration of the service to capture the advances of new technologies. Integration, how you can bring sources of data from different sources, from the genomics, from the point of care devices, from the lifestyle devices, the digital health. How you can bring it all together in order to facilitate and streamline it and bring it for the care of patients. There is, in general, another agreement across the board is that there is a slow adoption of innovation. There is too many obstacles. We discussed it through the report they made, but the point is that the adoption of innovation is quite slow, the pathway. And the expectation is, and I think that's where you all come on board with this, and given the theme of this meeting is digital technologies, digital transformation. They expect that they will become a major driver of improvement. Okay, so and then we'll be able to move more towards patient access, and this is something that's been discussed most as a benefit, as an advantage, but also as a disadvantage, because it also comes with important safeguards about how we ensure the quality of this important step, the direct patient access to diagnostics. A couple of points, I think that I keep presenting this again and again, is that the NHS spends about £6 billion annually on diagnostics, two of them for laboratory medicine. The diagnostic services are provided by about 100 diagnostic networks, labs, and they do about 1.5 billion diagnostic tests a year. So the focus diagnostics is second treatment and cure of vaccines. So the diagnostics is not at the center of the funding. And the other recognized and a very rough statistic is that for every £100 spent in the NHS, only about 1% is spent on diagnostics. And there's always the drive to achieve more, but for less. And that's an important point to remember. This is an example of a chronically underfunded NHS system, diagnostic system, had to deal during straight after the pandemic. You can see this is the number of patients that were waiting for either 6 weeks or 13 weeks to have a diagnostic test. And the diagnostic test is not just blood-based laboratory tests, it also includes radiology tests as well. And you can see the massive increase that was post-COVID. So this is, that gives you the example of a system that was already under pressure. There was and then of course when the COVID, the pandemic appeared, that was the impact that it had on delivery of diagnostic services. So even before the pandemic, there was the view that there needs to be a holistic approach to diagnostic preparedness. And the key themes were to boost diagnostic capacity and the staff skills, to develop and adopt diagnostic technologies, to formalize pathways for dedicated funding, and this is very important, and also expand the network of experts, how to upskill the staff involved, and also for learning through various other solutions to address similar challenges in vaccine development. So you can bring this know-how how to improve diagnostic services. If you want to distill, to filter, bring together all the 10 recommendations about the reforming the Diagnostics UK, these are what you come up. So there needs to be investment in technology infrastructure. There needs to be better training of the workforce and improve recruitment. They need to streamline pathways for diagnostics, enhance primary care diagnostics, and potentially bring point-of-care devices, utilize artificial intelligence, very much along the lines of what we'll be discussing here today. They need to improve in the patient engagement education, so they don't have false expectations and unrealistic expectations about this. Also, there is a need, there's a drive towards better public-private partnerships, and also to address inequalities, and also to outcome measures and continuous improvement. So there needs to be established pathways where you can monitor the effectiveness of continuous improvement. And of course, the last one is to prepare for future pandemics, because most people, or all people, believe that this is not going to be the only pandemic that we face in our lifetime. So, as you remember, AI in diagnostics has been mentioned as one of the drivers, enablers, and so on. However, a word of caution: what do we mean about AI? These are an example of some KPIs, the key performance indicators of the medical labs are having. So sample turnaround time, test volume per instrument, test cost per unit. This is hardly any AI worth issues that you might agree, but the expectation from the laboratory professionals is that AI will help them improve the KPIs into this. So this is another example, just to put in a different view, is that the operational challenges in clinical laboratory. So what really they are interested is about the inaccuracy and the consistency of results, how you deal with large volumes of data, how you deal with time-consuming tasks. So how AI can help addressing some of these tasks as well. Also, how to deal with limited expertise of the and skills of the laboratory professionals, and of course the consistent issue around constraints in terms of the resource and cost available because of the budget restrictions. One of the problems that the labs are facing, and this is consistently from both sides, from patients, from laboratory professionals, from stakeholders, from funders, is the inappropriate use of tests. And this again is something where potentially you might think that how AI can help in order to streamline. Because at the essence, at the core of diagnostics, especially diagnostics, how it's organized in the UK, it is at the center is the fact that there needs to be appropriateness of the diagnostic test can be described as the prescription of the right test using the right method at the right time to the right patient with the right cost and producing the right outcome. So that always is, think of it as the compass that will guide all the developments around this, how you can ensure how you deliver that. There are studies that suggest about between 20 and 70% of laboratory tests are inappropriately used. And on the right, there are some examples of some of these tests identified by various professional organizations across the globe, how these are misused. And this is a wide range of diagnostic, of laboratory tests for different conditions that they are they're either underused primarily, but also some that they're overused as well. So moving towards innovation, and I know that we need to move quickly, but moving towards innovation in diagnostics, there are some key questions. What is right innovation? What are the enablers for innovation, and what are the pathways to move this innovation? So I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with this concept. There are thousands and thousands of papers and studies identifying potential novel biomarkers in routine use. When I started working in laboratory, in blood sciences diagnostic laboratory 30 years ago, I was using almost the same, 99%, exactly the same biomarkers we currently use for routine care of patients. Okay, very little is changing, and the pace of change is very slow. So in this example, for this particular time frame, they identify, they measure about 150,000 papers talking about new novel biomarkers for routine care. However, there are hardly more than 100 are used. I mean, this is gives you a very good snapshot of the gap between the promise and the biomarkers that we currently use. And of course, I'm sure you all know about what's called the valley of death. Most of these biomarkers, all the concepts are failing, and very little comes to the zero survival, as it is called. So the requirements, in this table puts together the requirements that any new concept needs to meet. In terms of you need to address the unmet clinical need, the population, the patient population that will benefit, and so on. So I think this is, a lot of this information is on the report. So I think towards the end of the meeting, you'll be able to have access to the report. I'm not going to spend any more time into talking about each one of these points. But this is an important point that's worth remembering, because this is essentially how you're going to ensure a swift translation of innovation down to the routine application. Enablers identified in terms of the advancements in rapid testing, remote diagnostic, point-of-care testing, AI and machine learning, wearable diagnostic services. All these are some of the enablers that have been identified and mentioned by people about as potentially important tools in order to move forward with the diagnostic services and move them and meet the pace. So there are a number of funding mechanisms, because funding is also what's been identified in as one of the issues. So I put in one example there, but I think I'm going to skip that all the section altogether. But all this should be available on the report. You have a look, but this is an example of those of this particular funding stream. These are the pilot studies that were funded by the government. So one of the case studies that we focused was about the case for early diagnosis, because this is something that is very much now within the agenda of the NHS 10-year plans. How we're gonna have the right tools to enable early diagnosis, and of course, it makes good clinical, both economic sense as well. And there is a lot of activity around how we're going to ensure, how we're going to develop early diagnosis pathways. We know that the care is the demand for access to quicker and accurate diagnosis is rising at quite a substantial pace that we're unable to meet. And there are substantial health gains by bringing this type of pathways. what are the obstacles that we identify? Because all this is great. However, in the real world, there are the reports that we got is that, for example, there's a lack of clarity about the research evidence required. The clinical needs do not always match the technological advances that they mentioned. So these are some of the examples that they mentioned. The uptake sometimes is slow. There is increased demand. How we're going to move from the pilot phase into the wider adoption of the pathway. The barriers to diagnosis, the barriers to bring is you can split them into organizational, financial, operational, cultural, and regulatory. All these together potentially are important in stopping or slowing down the translation of innovation into clinical and into routine practice. And the challenges that a lot of the companies report is to understanding that dynamic nature of the NHS, keeping up with policy and the procedures and regulations, and identifying, this is an important point, where the diagnostics and the place is within the clinical pathway. And this is a very important point that each of the innovator needs to address in order to allow the introduction of the innovation into clinical practice. Understanding the funding landscape driver, and everybody accepts that it's quite fragmented. There are lots of different schemes and organizations involved in all this, or even identifying what are the key stakeholders. They will have the decision for the funding to take place, and finally scaling up. So how you move from a pilot study or pilot site into a wider adoption across the whole system. So, and a lot of people, although successful innovators, that they embedded their products into the NHS. This is what they suggest about approaches to overcome these challenges, better engagement, monitor changes, and so on. Again, I'm not going to spend any more time. Just to this is available in the landscape report. So the last part, very quickly, is something that I know that all of you have an interest. Many of you discussing, developing, which is some of the key drivers of and tools potentially, which is around point of care devices, direct to consumer tests, and also wearables. And this is something that our report mostly spend most of the time discussing. And so, yes, so when you make the case for a point of care device, is that there are some clear benefits. There are benefits that you can improve the confidence in the clinical decision making. You can have a faster decision maker. You can enable to make it faster. You can significantly reduce the hospital admissions and so on, and enable good clinical management in the virtual world at home. So there are some very distinctive benefits by introducing or fostering point of care devices. A lot of these devices that be morphed into the direct to consumer testing. And this is with various drivers, for example, to democratize healthcare, to democratize diagnostics. And it is expected. I think there's substantial rise in the market, and they suggest that this will rise by 60% from in the next few years. So there's a lot of interest of how we'll be able to control the direct to consumer testing of patients, because there are certain concerns. There are concerns around the impact they will have in primary care. There's concerns about how this conflicts with the national guidance of minimum testing intervals, for example. Everyone agrees that there's a good thing, but of course there needs to be better control, better monitoring of how these are used. And the same principles apply for the other part of the direct to consumer test, which is specifically around genetics. And the wearable diagnostic devices, again, this is something else, the new facet of diagnostics that everyone that is coming for the care of patients. And again, similarly, there are a number of concerns for that, similar to what about data quality, about health equity, about the energy, about the data security and privacy, the informed care costs, and evidence-based. So, yeah, I think that we, yes, so the post-pandemic, the future perspectives and challenges. Post-pandemic, the UK diagnostics facing new challenges as well as opportunities. And everyone agrees that the way forward is to embrace digital technologies and AI and foster innovation in addressing workforce. Okay, so, and most of the key opinion leaders that we engage, they agree that these are the key themes that the future UK diagnostics that they need to focus on. Okay, and I think that I will stop here. We think what better time to build the UK diagnostics sector. Thank you very much.